Hi everybody, welcome back to Right to the Top. I'm Adam. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about one word and one word only. It's going to be a bit of a grammar lesson, a bit of a vocabulary lesson, but most importantly, it's going to be a usage lesson. Now, the word I'm talking about is the word being, B-E-I-N-G. And the reason I'm talking about this is because students often ask me, how do I use this word? It's such a confusing word. So the reason that most people find it confusing is because it has multiple uses, okay? So that's what we're going to look at today. How to use being as a verb, as a gerund, as a participle, and as a noun. And this is the problem with this word. Because it has all these functions, people get confused when they see this word in a context that might not seem very familiar. So I'm going to show you the different functions, and I'm going to show you sample sentences so you understand the different contexts and how to use this word correctly, okay? So we're going to start with a verb. As you know, when you have an ing verb, it's generally a continuous tense, basically something that is happening over a longer period of time. If it is done in the present, then it is happening right now. It's in the process of happening. So we have am being, is being, are being for the present continuous, was or were being for the past continuous. Notice that we never say will be being or even will being. There is no future continuous for the verb being. We just say will be something, and that's the future. We don't use it in the continuous. We also don't use it in the perfect tenses. We don't say has been being or has being. And we don't say with a modal verb should be being or must be being, etc. So we don't mix being with any other verbs except the basic regular be verbs, am, is, are, was, were, period. Okay? So that's how we use it. Now, the problem with the verb is that it has two different functions. The first one is when the being is followed by an adjective or a noun, in which case this is the subject complement. Remember that the be verb is a linking verb or a copula verb, means it's linking a subject with a predicate. There's no action happening. But this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So first of all, whenever you see am being, is being, was being, etc., followed by a complement, adjective or noun, right away you understand that we're talking about a behavior. So although there is no particular action we can point to, we can say that the general actions of the person show a certain behavior or a certain attitude. Now, it's very important not to confuse attitude with feeling. You can't say somebody is being angry. You can just say somebody is angry, but somebody is being stubborn. Stubborn is more of an attitude. So the things that they do suggest, or the things they say or the things they do suggest that they are very stubborn or they're very annoyed, like he's being annoying, right? He's making me annoyed. Behavior, how they're basically acting towards you. So he is being nice. Now, nice is not something that you can actually do. You're not doing anything, but you're speaking politely. If somebody dropped something on the floor, you will pick it up for them. You will open the door for someone. You will help someone. That is being nice. So all those little actions are categorized generally as being nice, okay? So it implies behavior. Remember, nice is a complement. It's not an object. Be verbs don't take object. And that's an adjective. You can also use it with a noun, but the same way. He is being a gentleman. So how do gentlemen act? They open a door for a lady, or the ladies go first, or they give the person an opportunity to speak before them. All of these things that gentlemen do means that the person is being a gentleman. He is acting like a gentleman. So if you're not sure about the verb being, use the verb acting instead, okay? Now, I'll show you what I mean. He was being nice to you, but he isn't nice in general. So first, let's talk about this. Two things you have to be careful about here. One is behavior. He was being nice to you. He was doing things that made you think he's nice, but he isn't nice in general. He is not a nice person. He was just being nice to you. Maybe he likes you. Maybe he wants to get something from you. So his behavior, his actions towards you might make you think he's nice. But generally, in other situations or to other people, he is not a nice person. So make sure you don't confuse the person's behavior to the fact describing the person. So when I'm using only the be verb, is not, this is a fact, this is a description. When I'm using was or is being, I'm talking about behavior. And I'm going to make a separate video about generally the be verb because it's very important to understand how to use it. Another one, he has been nice to me. Notice that I'm not saying he has been being nice to me. When you're talking about perfect tenses, you're only just using the adjective with been. And then you can say he has been acting strange lately. If you want to talk about actions, use the verb acting. Okay? Now, very commonly in spoken English, you might hear somebody say, are you being serious? Means you're not joking, right? Are you being serious? You could say, are you serious? Or are you being serious? Means, is your attitude serious? So when I'm using the word serious or stubborn or annoying, I'm talking more about attitude than I am about behaviors. Never with feelings. Never are you being sad or he is being happy. We don't use that. He is happy, he is sad, etc. So that's adjective or noun following. If you follow the being with a past participle verb, or, well, it's technically a past participle, but it's the third verb, right? So give, gave, given. Given is the past participle. If you're using it in that way, then you have the be verb is, for example, is, am, are. Being plus the past participle, you have a continuous passive action. And in which case the action is whatever that third verb is. So is, being, given, right? Given is the main verb. Is and being are both helping verbs, but the whole thing works as a continuous passive verb. Last week, Cheryl was being trained. So again, it's a longer action. It took a few days, let's say, to use the new software. Now she is being taught how to program it. So it doesn't matter past, present, etc. You're going to use is being, was being, plus the past participle. Again, future, just drop the being. Will be taught, will be trained next week, etc. So that's the verb. Pretty straightforward. Just make sure you understand the context and what you're trying to express, or what a person is trying to express to you. Now, gerund. And here is where people get a little bit confused, I think. So first of all, what is a gerund? A gerund is a verb that is used like a noun. Now, the problem here is that we don't have any actual action. What we have is the idea of an action, the concept of an action or an activity. So it's been nice being with you. It is nice being with you. Now, first of all, notice that it is nice. This is a complete clause. Being with you is a gerund phrase. It's a complement to nice. Why has something been nice? Being with you. Being is the gerund. It's just the idea of togetherness, of being together. If you just want to be general, it's nice to be with you. Both of these sentences work okay. What is the difference? It's nice being with you now. It's nice to be with you in general. That's when you're going to use the difference between being or to be. Both are correct, slightly different connotations. Being friendly doesn't cost anything, so smile, right? Smile. It doesn't cost you anything. So being friendly means just basically behaving in this way as a general idea. Not right now, not you or anybody else. Anybody being friendly. Just this activity, this idea of friendliness doesn't cost anything. Now, the next examples, these are the ones that mostly confuse people. Remember, you can use a possessive adjective with a gerund to talk about a general idea of an action or a general behavior or activity that belongs to somebody or that is connected to somebody or something. His being nice to you does not necessarily mean that he is a nice person. So another way I can say this, if I want to write this sentence a different way, because he is nice to you, or because he is being nice to you, both okay, does not mean that he's a nice person. So his being means the action that is related to him at this particular moment. It's being expensive does not mean it is good. Same idea. The fact that expensiveness, yeah, I guess is the correct word, is associated with this thing does not mean that this thing is good. right? Another way I can write it, just because it is expensive does not mean it is good. So when I have it's being, the idea is because it is does not mean. Again, depending on the context of the sentence. So that's usually the harder ones for people to understand, the ones with the possessive adjectives, but I'll give you a separate video about that as well. Now, sometimes you want to emphasize a certain idea or a certain feeling. So the feeling of being certain about the existence of something does not make it true. So just because you feel that you are certain doesn't mean it's true. Another way to say of being certain, certainty. If you have another noun, you can just use the noun. So the feeling of certainty about the existence of something is the same as of being certain. Now, why would I use being in this case? Because you feel it as a part of you. You feel in you that certainty is more like an action. It's a state of mind, and that's why I would use being. But again, there's no action here. This is still a gerund. It's used as an object to the preposition of. So make sure you're using it in the correct way here, and make sure you're not confusing this with a verb, okay? And the last one is the same idea. Try to deliver the gifts without being seen, without anybody seeing you or without letting anyone see you, okay? So this is, again, being seen, this idea of something happening. There's no action, there's just the idea because you don't want them to see you. If they see you, then it's an actual action happening, right? So it's a little bit tricky. But remember, after a preposition, you're generally going to need an object to that preposition. In this case, you're going to use the gerund being, not the verb be. Okay, so that's the gerund. Now, participles. Participles are a little bit confusing. You must first understand how to use adjective clauses and adverb clauses correctly. Once you know how to use an adjective clause or an adverb clause, you can reduce it. You can shrink it into a participle phrase. So, being a devout religious man, James does not drink any alcohol. So what we have here is a reduced adjective or adverb clause, depending on what came before or after, depending on the purpose of this sentence. You can say, if you extend it, because or as he is a devout religious man, James does not drink. Or James, who is a devout religious man, does not drink. The first one, because, adverb clause, reduced. The second one, James, who is, adjective clause, reduced. Why you would use one or the other depends what you're trying to say. Are you explaining to me something about James, or are you giving me a reason that he doesn't drink? Okay, depends. Either way, when you have a dependent clause, adjective or adverb clause, with an independent clause, and they share the same subject, James and he, same subject, and you have a be verb, you can reduce the be verb to an active participle, in which case that's being. You can do this with other verbs as well, but I want to show you how it's used with being reduced to an active participle with an ing. You can't do this with a passive participle. You can't say being a devout man. That doesn't work. And again, same idea. Being tall, Larry often stands out in a crowd. Larry, who is tall. So another thing to keep in mind, I forgot to mention before, you can reduce these clauses when the conjunction is also the subject of the clause, right? Who is the subject. In the first one, I can reduce the because it's very clear. If the conjunction is very obvious, you can take it out as well. If you think it's not very obvious, leave it, okay? Being a devout religious man, very obvious, I can take out the because. Again, I'll make a different video about participles. They're very tricky. A couple more examples. There being no alternatives, we decided to go with the local agency. Because there were no. I'm taking out the because. It's obvious the relationship between the two clauses. I must leave there. Why? Because there is a different subject than the independent clause. There is the subject, we is the subject. Separate subjects, you must keep both subjects. Same subject, you can take one out. There being no alternatives, we decided to go. In the next example, before being sent, each item is checked twice to ensure. Now here we have the same subject, so I took it out, but notice I kept the conjunction before, because here I don't have an obvious relationship. I have to show you the order of events. So I must keep before, take out the subject, the be verb, into an active participle, being. Before it is sent, each item is checked, reduced to a participle phrase. So that's participles. Okay, last one, nouns. Now, again, in most cases, I think most people will realize that the beings is being used as a noun, especially when it's used as a plural. For example, human beings are strange creatures. We are. Some scientists claim to have proof that there are no other beings in the universe. So a being is basically an existing living thing, an animate object, a living thing, an animal, a creature, an alien, as the case may be. Many people believe in a supreme being that controls our world and our lives. Notice that I have capital S, capital B on supreme being. This is just another way to say God, if you want to not say God, the word God. A coma is a state of being. So it's just a state. Like, this is basically a collocation, state of being, in which. And this whole state of existence, in this case, being means existence, and then I describe what kind of existence that is. So there you go. Verb, gerund, participle, noun. All of these can be applied to the word being. Just make sure you understand the function of the word in your sentence, what's surrounding it, what's before, what's after, what it's trying to do. Now, if you want a little bit more practice, I will put a few quiz type questions on my Instagram page. You can go there and follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook as well. You can also join my Facebook group. It's a reading and writing lab. It's Adam's Reading and Writing Lab, where you can talk to other English learners, other people trying to improve their writing skills and their reading skills. And you can communicate and practice your reading and writing there as well. And I will also put some of these questions for you there as well. So that is all. I hope that was a little bit helpful. If you have any questions about being, please ask me in the YouTube comment section or Instagram or Facebook, etc. If you like the video, don't forget to give me a like, subscribe to my channel, click the notification icon so you know when new videos come up, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.